By the end of this video, you will have everything you need to know about Obsidian. Our journey starts right here, where you can download Obsidian, which is available on both computer and the phone. Once you clicked and installed Obsidian, you have the option to create a vault. And a vault is a folder where all your notes will be created as tiny text files. So you can select your folder in wherever you like, and then you're technically good to go if you're using your computer only. If you're also using the phone, you might want to save your precious vault in the cloud instead. And there are three options for doing this. One free method if you use iPhone, one free method if you use Android, and one official method called Obsidian Sync that costs $10 per month or $96 per year. We'll now go through these options, but if it's too overwhelming, remember that you can just select your vault on your computer and can always move everything later. So if you have an iPhone and want to use Obsidian for free, you use something called iCloud Drive. And if you do not have it enabled already on iPhone and Mac, you go to the settings, iCloud, and then make sure that iCloud Drive is turned on. If you use PC, you can download iCloud Drive from the Microsoft Store, open the program, sign in, and then apply. Then whenever you go back into Obsidian, you can select your vault to be in iCloud Drive instead, to be accessed by both devices. If you have an Android and want to use Obsidian for free, you can use Dropbox. You download the app called DropSync on your Android, and then whenever you go into the app and log in, you can select one folder to sync to Dropbox. And on the computer, you can install Dropbox as well, and then whenever you open up Obsidian, you can select your vault to be in DropSync, so it can be accessed by both devices. And there is also another option called Folder Sync, but personally, DropSync is much easier, so I recommend that. And for Obsidian Sync, you simply sign in right here and onto their subscription. And once you subscribe either monthly or yearly, you go to settings and enable sync. Then in settings, you click the cogwheel, click to remote vault, create the remote vault, which you can name whatever you want, and then you want to enable end-to-end encryption, because then no one but you will be able to see your notes. And whenever you're finished, you click connect, enter the encryption password, and now your vault is connected with Obsidian Sync. So if you go to either your iPhone or Android, you log in with your account, select your remote vault, enter the encryption password, and then you're good to go if you're doing the premium version. If you for some reason only want to sync between computers, you can, aside from iCloud Drive, use Dropbox again, Google Drive, OneDrive, or something called SyncThing. And it's pretty much the same process as with iCloud Drive, just install it on the computer and then access the same vault there. And the second thing is that Obsidian really do not recommend using multiple syncing methods on one vault. For example, if you have a vault on iCloud Drive, it might be extremely buggy. If you want to use iPhone and Android together, the best option is actually to use Obsidian Sync. So now we're inside Obsidian and we got a couple of options. File and note is the same thing here. So we can create new file by clicking here or press Command N. We can also open a file and see the recent ones by clicking here and pressing Command O. And if you already have some files already, they are showing up here. And we can select either one of these or just type the name of the note and then it will create that for us. Right here we also have tabs, just like in a normal web browser. You can click here or press Command T, and then we got all these options again to create an open note. We can create multiple windows with this, and even with the same note. So imagine every time you want to write an essay but still want to look at your resources and stuff. You can do that by opening these tabs and windows side by side. We can also drag these tabs around and even drop it right here, and now it's down below. We can also navigate through these tabs by pressing Control Tab or Control Shift Tab. We can even select a specific tab by a certain number. If I have more than 9 tabs open, I can always press Command 9 and then the tab moves to the right is selected. So you can pin one by right clicking here, and in case you prefer the tabs to be sideways, you can stack these tabs by pressing this button over here, and you can even have multiple cursors working simultaneously by pressing Option and click whatever you need that for. But of course, you don't need multiple tabs, ideally just one or two, so you can press Command W or click the X button. I'm quite thorough here because I think it's good to know these shortcuts, because now I can work very fast in Obsidian, like the speed of thought. And speaking of speed, maybe you notice that it's super fast, there is no lag at all, and there's a good reason for it. If you right click on this note and click Reveal in Finder, you can see the note right here. And if I type some random stuff here in Obsidian and open it with, Notepad, it's exactly the same text. It is uniquely your note, and it will be like this forever, so you can completely trust whatever is in there. While we're still here though, we have some other things to explore. We have a ribbon right here with some interesting buttons that we'll explore a little bit later, plus the options to switch between different vaults, a help guide, and the almighty settings. If we click this button here on the top left, we have a sidebar with all the recent notes lined up. But in case you want to sort them differently, you can do so here. Here we can also create new notes and also create folders in case you're a big fan of those. And we can drag notes to the folders, and if we right click, we can create folders within folders. We just collapse all the folders by clicking here. In this menu, you can favorite certain notes by right-clicking on them and press star. So if you have important work or checklists that you reference often, you can go back there. If we click the same button on the right, we got linked mentions, links, and tags, something we'll definitely come back to very soon. And on your phone, it's pretty much the same, except that your tabs are all down there. And with this button right in the bottom middle, you can search and create notes very fast. You can also click on the left and see the sidebar, and on the right see the links. You can even swipe down and see another menu called Command Palette, which is another kind of search, but for every action you want to do rather than specific notes. It's like an assistant that you can go to if you want to do anything in Obsidian and you don't remember how to do it. And as you will see later on, it's extremely useful. So now that we can navigate around, we want to take notes in the first place in order to deal with all these informations and ideas and aspirations that we have. And the best way to start taking notes is with something called Daily Note. If we go to Settings and then Core Plugins, we can enable the Daily Notes right here. If we go back, we can either click this button or activate Command Palette by pressing Command P. Then you can type Open Today's and the options right here for you to click. And there it is, a note with today's date. And the idea is that whenever you don't know where to write, but something that you cannot forget, you simply write it there. And while we're still here, you can also create a recurring template. And to do this, we first need to create a folder by going back and pressing this folder button. And then we go into the folder and press New Note, and then you can write out exactly what you want in the template. Then come back, choose that specific folder, and then that specific note. So now that we also started to create other notes, it's time to master formatting. And compared to other note-taking apps, it's almost a science in itself, because you can pretty much do anything you want once you understand something called Markdown. And in case you don't know what Markdown is, it's a writing format that can easily be read by pretty much any app. It's like its own language for things like headings and bolded text or to-dos, or represented by certain characters that you put into the keyboard, rather than pressing buttons above like in standard word processors. For example, if you want to type a big heading, you write the hashtag and a space. And for the smaller heading, add another hashtag. And the more hashtags, the smaller the heading. You can fold them by pressing here, so if you have a large amount of text, you can close some of it to make it easy to read and, more importantly, easy to navigate through, which is actually very useful when it comes to research and outlining. That's something I really favor a lot. And if you click this right column, you can see the outline of the entire document in case you don't want to fold. But if you want to make something bold instead, you press 2 asterisks, and then whenever you type afterwards, it becomes bold. and if you want to switch back to normal text, you press another 2 asterisks again, but it's only necessary when you're in one paragraph. If you want to make something italics, you only press 1 asterisk, and here you go. Just like with bold, you can type 1 asterisk again to return to normal. To underline certain text, you have to do something weird actually. You have to type this combination of characters, then type anything you want to underline, and then type this combination of characters. And here you go. It's quite convoluted, I know. And if you want to highlight certain text that you found the most insightful, you press 2 equal signs, and here you go. And if you want to strike through text, you press 2 curly dashes and then type whatever you want. If you want to make a bullet list to organize thoughts, just type dash like usual, which you can indent to have sub-bullets, etc. If you have an ultra inspirational quote, then you can type greater than, and then you have a block quote. If you want to have a checkbox for tracking things you want to do, you first press a dash and then space, square bracket, space, and then the opposite square bracket. Here's a checkbox. If you for some reason want it checked off already, you can add an X instead of a space between those square brackets, but I will just check it off by clicking on it. And if you want to separate text into certain sections, you can press 3 dashes, and now you got this nice horizontal line right here. And now you might think, how am I supposed to add to my phone, Oscar? And thankfully you don't have to, because they made it extremely convenient by having buttons that you can slide here in this small menu over the keyboard. And this makes formatting super easy, so you can simply press a button. I wish that they had that for other note-taking apps. But there's even more you can do with formatting, and since we already have too much fun writing stuff, we might as well continue, right? If you're a coder, you can do so in Obsidian, and you create 3 backticks, and now you're into the wonderful world of monospace. It's also easy to tab in and tab out, and when you're done with this code block, then you press 3 backticks again, and now you can copy the entire thing by clicking this button over here. You can also make tables in Obsidian, although it's a little bit tricky, I must admit. You start by typing the first header, then pipe, then second header, and so forth, how many columns you want to have. And then on the next row, you put a bunch of dashes followed by a pipe for each column that you initially assigned. And then afterwards, you can write all the other boxes separated by the pipes, and at the very end, you have a table. But there's actually an easy way to do it, which we'll discuss later in the video. But if you want attention from everyone, you can make a call-out block by first doing a normal quote block and then typing this. But you can also use other words instead of info depending on what kind of attention you want. And if you want all your newfound attention to go somewhere else instead, you can paste an external link. Normally you could just paste it like this, but if you want to name it something, the most basic way is to press Command K or type first 2 square brackets and then 2 parentheses. In the square brackets you type the name of the link, and in the parentheses the actual link, and now you have a professional link. If you want to be even more professional, you can embed the website that can be read directly from Obsidian if you're online. You first put in this, and then paste your link, and then put in this. It's quite hard to pronounce, but you will see it right here. But if you want to embed a YouTube video, it's a little bit different, because when you paste the URL, you want to replace this with something like embed. And before you tag your friends in the comments, let's add some tags. Instead of making a heading, you remove that space but just enter the words, and then you can click it, and in the sidebar you can see which other notes have that specific tag, plus how frequent all the tags are. You can also create tags within tags by simply adding a / to it, and it will be shown here as well. But as a footnote, let's now make a footnote. You simply type this, and at the bottom do the same, add a column, and then type the footnote, whatever you want it to refer to. But let's add some images and attachment instead, and by far the easiest way is drag and drop, or press this button on the phone. And there are other ways too, but this one works pretty much always, I would say. And lastly, I want to show you a thing called metadata, which can be useful if you use certain plugins, which we'll explore later. And at the top, you add 3 dashes, and then whatever you want, and then 3 dashes again. You can type things like name, or date created, or key or author tag. And if you want a note to be called something else just for fun, you can type alias here. But just before we move on, you might have noticed that the formatting might look a little bit weird with all these special characters when we type. But if you press this button or Command E, we go to preview mode where you can see how it really will look like. And you can press Command E again, we're back into edit mode, so you can switch between reading and edit mode. But during all this time, we have not even mentioned the core thing that Obsidian is most known for, and I'm of course talking about links. By simply tapping 2 square brackets, you can see all the names of your previous notes. And if you're not, you can create a note on the fly by simply giving it a name. And you can see on this menu on the right called backlinks. And if we go back, we can see outgoing links. Even if you have not linked a particular note per se, you can still see notes mentioning that particular word, such as cat through these unlinked references right here. You can also customize your links by using this pipe symbol over here and type whatever you want after it to get a very professional link. But in order to get the true wow factor of all the links, there is something called the graph view, which I will show you. We will now travel to space. And now we are in space, and look, there are tons of dots all over the place. And you can also see that many of them are linked to each other, and these are the links we mentioned. And in this cogwheel right here, we can also adjust some settings. We can decide which one to show or not show, search among all these notes and only see a subset that's a specific keyword. We can even add groups, assigning certain notes to color based on what word they contain to make it more lively, show arrows, change how big the notes and links are, and so much more. If you click this button over here, we can see an animated time lapse on how all these notes were created. And no, it was not Big Bang actually, but it's more of a gimmick, but fun to see nonetheless. Wait, where am I? Oh no, I'm in Minecraft for some reason. I thought I was in space. And here is Obsidian, you know, that block who never wants to be destroyed. But what happens if I... Oh, okay. So if you like these very in-depth videos about popular note-taking apps, be sure to subscribe. Evernote and Notion is coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. But we still have a lot to explore, and if you see right here, there are tons of core plugins, which is basically features that Obsidian has that you can either turn on or turn off. We already talked about some, like for instance daily notes, so we'll go through the rest of them in alphabetical order, starting with audio recorder. With this plugin, I'm able to record my voice and it will be saved as an audio recording, either among all the notes if you don't have particular notes selected, or within the note if you happen to be in one. And this is pretty useful if we have our hands full but still want to capture our thoughts. So let's try right now. Obsidian is the best note-taking app ever. Obsidian is the best note-taking app ever. But you can go up to 2x speed or lower if you prefer that. Next up, we have Canvas, which is Obsidian's whiteboard or mind mapping tool or Jamboard, whatever. We can drag stuff, either drag cards, which you can rename, we can drag our own notes, we can then edit right here in the canvas, and also drag other attachments and images and so forth. And meanwhile, we can also link them together and do other kinds of fun shapes. And next, we already talked about the command palette already, but what I forgot to mention is that you can pin your favorite commands. We can search for the command right here in settings, and then when we press Command P, it's right here as a favorite option, but you can also unpin those commands. Next up, we have the file recovery, and it's a way to back up our notes in case something happens and some of you written get lost, or if you want to go back to an earlier version of a note, let's say for instance you deleted something and now you want to recover it. If you go to snapshot right here, you can see how the notes looked like at a particular time, and then you can copy the snapshot and paste into a new note. In the settings, you can also choose how often you should back up, how long is to save all the version history and so forth, and if you want to clear the history for some reason. Then we also have Format Converter, and it's useful if you're using either Roam, Bear and Cellcast and 3 other note-taking apps. But if you're a Roam user, they made it totally easy for you to switch. Next up, we have Note Composer, and with that you can do primarily 2 things. First, you can take 2 different notes and merge them together into one note by right-clicking that note, in case you don't want to copy and paste for some reason. But even more useful is that you can select the given text, then right click, then extract selection. And now you have a link to a brand new note containing the text that you previously selected. Then we also have page preview, which is a very simple one. Whenever you have an internal link, you can place your mouse or press command while doing it in case it don't work, and then you can get a small previews in there which you can scroll actually. But here's a fun one called RandomNote. And like it says, whenever you click this button, you'll be presented a random note from your vault. And this can be very useful actually. We have a lot of notes and want some serendipity, unexpected inspiration. And in my opinion, it's actually even better than links, since you don't need to do any efforts, square brackets or you just click and get those dopamine hits. But while it's fun to get random notes, you do want to search after them too. And Obsidian is quite an advanced way of searching, so let's go through it in detail, shall we? First, by pressing Command F, you can search within notes. And I personally tend to make very long notes, and I prepare videos like these, so it's extremely useful, at least for me. And by pressing Command Option F, you can even replace words. Then you also have the easy search, which is quick switcher that we met in the very beginning of Obsidian. But finally, we have the proper, the advanced search here in the sidebar, or pressing Command Shift F. And keep in mind that if I search, for example, cute cats, I will have every note that mentions the combination cute or cat. If I want to search for the phrase cute cats, I have to include the quotation marks like this. But if you have a quote within a quote, you must put backslash before the quotation marks like this, and then it will include it in the search bar. But otherwise it will not. And lastly, you can also put a dash in front of a keyword if you want to exclude a particular thing that pops up again and again in order to refine your search query. And there are actually a lot more to talk about, and it's very easy to fall into a rabbit hole. I'll link a more in-depth guide in the description regarding the search. But here we have something simpler, which is called slash commands. And it's like the command palette, but within the note, in case you're writing and do not want to press Command P for some reason. And more generally, you can see this principle that Obsidian is like multiple ways of doing the same thing, because it wants to tailor to you in order to have the most freedom. Speaking of freedom, you can actually ditch PowerPoint, Google presentations or similar, because with this plugin, you can convert your note to presentation. Whenever you add a line break, it acts like a new slide. So if you want to have 10 slides, you put in as many line breaks as necessary, and then you can add text, images, embeds, etc. just like you would in a normal slide deck. But the magic happens once you right click and press Start Presentation. And now we have this awesome presentation which you quickly go back and forth to present to whoever you want to present to. And in case you wonder if it needs to be all black instead of whatever color you want to have, there are solutions to this. More on that later. But we also have templates, and we already touched upon it a little bit, when we did the daily notes, but you can have a template for everything you want. Call it checklist, outline structure, you name it. Also for YouTube. You create a specific folder which you can name whatever you want, and then create notes which will then be your templates. And then in settings, you go into template and select that particular folder. And now whenever you want to insert a particular template, you click this button, Command P over here, and then select one of these notes that will act as a template. 3 core plugins left, and those are pretty simple actually. First, we have Unique Note Creator, which lets you create notes which have the unique timestamps or prefixes and so forth. Pretty much like a daily note we mentioned earlier, and this is useful if you're a big fan of organizational methodologies like Cellarcasting, where each note gets a unique identifier. If you want to learn more about Cellarcasting, you can check out the official article here, because it deserves a video on its own and it's quite complex and also very popular actually. Next up, we have word count, which is ultra simple. It displays how many words or characters you have in a note, which is very useful, let's say in academia or YouTube titles. And just for reference, this is everything I've said so far, so it's quite a lot to say about Obsidian. And there's more. The last core plugin is Workspaces, which allows us to save a couple of notes to Windows into preset or configuration. And this is extremely useful if you, for example, have different areas, different projects, different subjects in school and so forth. And rather than opening up each note and try to arrange them in correct order and so forth, you can just load up everything at once. And to save all the tabs that you have right now, you can click here and then save. And if you want to load up, you click here again, and now you can see you previously saved Workspaces, which you can then click load or delete if no longer needed. But here's the mega unlock to everything we said so far. And remember all the time I said this action is a short command and it's very free and tailored and so forth. You have the power to choose your own short command using hotkeys. If you go here to settings and hotkeys, you see all these different options available. And you can press either command or option or shift or control or more of them, plus another key. And if you chose red, then it's already taken and you have to remove the hotkey from another command. But if you do not want to be overwhelmed, I recommend that you only select hotkeys whenever you're using a particular action over and over and over again, and it does not have a hotkey that you like. Now if you just take a breath, you've probably seen how much Obsidian can do and how many cool things you can do with it. But the possibilities are pretty much endless once you introduce something called community plugins. And there are tons of passionate Obsidian users out there in the world who has built solutions that you can implement for free. You have to disable something called safe mode in order to download these community plugins because Obsidian themselves have not built them. But once you're not restricted, you can go into settings and see the community plugins and then browse. And as of April 2023, there are over 900 plugins, so we'll definitely not go through them all. And after hours of experimentation, I will now show you the 20 community plugins that I found to be the most useful. The first one is advanced slides, and compared to normal slides, you can actually see preview right here how the slides will turn out, which can be very useful. The second one is advanced tables, and going back to when we explored tables the first time, it's much easier now than before because now you only need to type a pipe and then the first heading and then tab, and all the columns are made automatically every time you press tab. Then you press enter and just continue the same way, tabbing for columns and enter for rows. The third one is auto link title, and instead of just pasting a normal link, it will automatically recognize the title of the article and add it in. The fourth plugin is better word count, and compared to the normal word count, you can select any text within the note and it will then show how many notes and characters are there. But this is my most favorite one because with this calendar view right here, you can click to any daily note you have or don't have and type anything you want. And daily notes are so much easier notes that you can simply click the date instead of trying to figure out it the other way. Next we have checklists, and in this extra menu on the right, you're able to see all to-dos and tasks on all the Obsidian. But you have to add hashtag to-do for each checkbox in order to work. Here's one of the most popular plugins ever, but unless you're familiar with coding, it's quite hard to use actually. But with this plugin, you can use the entire vault as a database and pull out different statistics, so every view you can find is pretty much endless. And you trigger it by typing 3 backticks and Dataview. And then you can type whatever you want to look at. For example, if you want to see all the notes in one folder, you type list and then your folder. Finish off with 3 backticks and now you have a pretty nice looking view. But it's only scratching the surface and it requires almost a video like this to make that plugin justice. So I'll leave some links in the description you can check out on your own because yeah, it's very powerful, but you need to use it correctly. So now we're at plugin 8, and this one can be very useful if you're doing lots of coding and want to visually see which category is which. And this one lets you create emojis by pressing colon and then type the associated word. For example, you can type smile or cat or heart and it'll be there, which is quite useful if you have a computer. And another way to add emojis is with this plugin, where you can with command palette or preferred hotkey open up this menu over here, and then you're able to select, just like you would on the phone. But here's a popular one again, because with this Excalidraw plugin, you can draw stuff in Obsidian as well. It's quite advanced with different brushes and arrows and so forth, but you can use Command P again to activate it, and feel free to sketch out ideas or draw stuff if you're into it. And if you're a Notion user, you might appreciate the Kanban view, board view. With this plugin, you can do so right here as well. Through the command palette, you create a new Kanban board, add multiple columns, and then add cards. And if you link existing notes, you can then click in and edit those notes. So you got everything Notion is going for in Obsidian. So a good reason to switch to, actually. If you like reading and highlighting stuff from your Kindle and all the Kindle books, you'll particularly like this one, because with this plugin, you sign into your Kindle account, and then whenever you highlight it, it will all be shown here in designated notes. Then we also have the mind map plugin, which allows you to preview any note as a mind map. You will read the headings, subheadings, bullet lists, etc., and make this preview over here, which you can once again access with Command P. And this plugin number 15 here is useful if you like to work in Rome or workflow, because by simply pressing dash, you have this complete bullet structure that looks exactly like Rome. So once again, Obsidian is coming for you if you're a Rome user, and it's free too. And with this plugin, you're able to select any text and just paste in the link normally. But you have to deactivate this plugin first if you have it. But once again, more flexibility as previously said. And this plugin is related to the calendar, actually developed by the same developer. And now you can also make weekly and monthly notes. If you like doing, for instance, weekly reviews or annual checkups or monthly reflections and so forth, this is a great way to streamline that process. And this one is so simple but very useful. You've probably seen how much time you spend inside the settings, and with this search bar, we don't need to wander around anymore, thanks to simply searching stuff. And the second to last community plugin is text format, and it allows you to take any text and reformat it. For example, if I select text here and activate command palette, I can choose to lowercase everything, uppercase everything, and many more, as you can see right here. And lastly, with this community plugin, you can get our mighty overlord ChatGPT to Obsidian. You get a specific API key from OpenAI's website, which you can paste here. Now, I had to admit that this one can be quite unreliable, as you can see, because lots of people using ChatGPT nowadays, but whenever it works, it works. Okay, these were all the community plugins. So before we finish off this epic journey we spent together, we have themes, we have Obsidian Publish, very cool web clipper, and lastly the Obsidian community itself. Remember when I said that you don't need to have Obsidian black and purple? With these themes, you can have Obsidian in pretty much any color you want. You can browse all the community themes, install them, and then have different colors, which could either be futuristic or more popping out, or more vibrant, more colorful, call it that. Then we also have something called Obsidian Publish, which costs $20 a month or $192 a year. But with that, you can make websites completely based on Obsidian. You can select which of the notes you want to publish to the web or not, and even get a custom domain for it. All safe, of course. And in case of the custom link, I'll leave a link in the description to check it out. If you have Obsidian Publish, you can invite others to collaborate on that note while being totally secure. You can add or remove users to side collaboration here, and then these people are able to collaborate with you. And they actually do not need Obsidian Publish themselves, but only the host in case you need to. And if you want Google Analytics to work on your published notes, you can do so here, so no need to web services, I guess. When it comes to Web Clipper, Obsidian does not have its own, but because it's all Markdown files, you can use this plugin right here, which you can then go into any website and download the entire thing as a Markdown file, which you can then open normally in Obsidian. Pretty remarkable if you ask me. And now we're finally at home with like-minded friends. And Obsidian has a very active community with dedicated users, as you can realize, because this note-taking app just wow. As we now come to the very end, you've now seen pretty much everything that Obsidian can do. And I have to admit, after spending all these 100+ hours, I've become a true Obsidian fan. It's like you really need to get to know a particular thing in order to be truly obsessed by it, and now I definitely know. And in case you already have notes of other apps, it's pretty straightforward to migrate your notes, and I'll leave a couple of links here as well since it's different for each note-taking app. But even easier is to do as I do and just completely start from the scratch. And then whenever you need a note from one of your older note-taking apps, you simply copy and paste it. If you for some reason want a very simple note-taking app, not necessarily as advanced as Obsidian, you can check out either Apple Notes or Google Keep right here. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to share this video with friends you know, and as always, you're the most amazing human being alive.